Live from the Motor City, all the way to the Volunteer State. It's time for the Reckless Speculation Podcast, where we recklessly speculate the latest news in the world of sports. From college football to NASCAR, we've got you covered. And don't forget to stick around for the world-famous Bet Your Nuts, where we will give you your best bets to make the most money. Now sit back, grab your favorite drink of choice, and join Robbie Davis, Raj Mehta, Brandon Chain, and Tom Sloan. It's showtime. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Reckless Speculation NFL Kickoff Show. We got a good one for you tonight. We're going to break down last week's action. There was a dismantling in South Beach. We're going to get into that. Dallas did what we all knew Dallas would do in Arizona, of all places. So we'll hit on that. My Lions restored the roar. Big win in Detroit. And Rub and Tug got the better hand of the Tennessee Titans. And then just like always, we're going to preview some of the game, this week's better action for this week's week 4, starting tonight, ladies and gentlemen, with the Lions and Packers. Ooh, get ready for that one. I know I will be. So again, we do want to thank our sponsors, as always, the fellas that can rescue Toonces the cat out of jail. These guys can do it all. If you are in the greater Chattanooga area, or frankly, anywhere in Tennessee area, give these guys a call. Even the guy that was superimposed on the right from our great Canva program, he will definitely give you a hand. Any types of law, they're the ones to call. And also our good buddy, Brandon Chain, C&W Construction. Here's some unbelievable examples of projects they just recently did. Outdoor kitchen, outdoor oasis, whether it's a new build or any type of construction, these guys are the ones to call in the greater Nashville area. You want to give them a call. And a reminder, definitely, please follow, subscribe on all our social media accounts. The more interaction you guys give, the bigger reach we have. And you know what? I'm kind of biased. I think we do a pretty damn good job. And we want to get this show to as many people as we can. And we can get that done with your help. Just a like, a follow, or a subscribe. That'll get that done. And as always, we're powered by Jack. Got that ice cube melting, making that Jack's single barrel a little more bearable for me. I might be a little bit of a lightweight, so give me one and I'm done. But regardless, you know what time it is. It's time for Jack. Get it down there. And like our college football show and last week's show, we started a little bit something different to kind of change the pace. We're going fun fact time here, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to the world of baseball, actually, on this date in 1941. That's right, September 28th, 1941. Ted Williams became the last player to do something. That's bat 400. As a matter of fact, he batted 406. Unbelievable to think about that these days. I know Raj will probably agree with me. This is a stat line that will never be beaten in my lifetime. I know that. But fun fact, part 2, his head is cryogenically frozen on a shelf. His son decided to freeze him in hopes that one day they can revitalize the hit king. But I think that might be a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But we're going to bring the fellas in here. Raj, you made it on time. Congratulations.
I think on time is relative, much like most people in the South.
Yes. And Mr. Brandon Chain, What do you think about freezing people's heads and putting them on a shelf in a cryogenic freezer?
Everybody copes in different ways, and I mean, if that's what you got to do, whatever gets you through.
Oh,
Couldn't do it myself. So
yeah, no. Speaking of coping, I think the Denver Broncos are going to take a little while to get over what took place in South Beach from the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins become the first team since 1966 to score 70 points in the game, 726 yards of offense, 350 of which came on the ground, 10 touchdowns. This is a performance I don't think any of us have seen in a long time. Raj, I'll start with you. Is this the best offense in the NFL? And would you? Is it a fair assumption that you can compare this offense to the Mike Martz greatest show on turf St. Louis Ram teams?
That's a good question. To answer your first question, yes. Right now, there is no doubt that they are the best offense in the NFL. The reason being is this year, their offensive line has vaulted up the charts from last year, suffering injuries. And this week, they're up to second pass blocking efficiency. And this was Teron Armstead's first game. And that's not a coincidence. And he is a likely Hall of Famer. I believe, I'm not sure how many Pro Bowls, but they have Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, and then USC left tackle. It actually hasn't been that great this year, but better than Isaiah Wynn. Austin Jackson, a first-round pick. And that line, if you give Tua time, he will pick you apart. The problem with Tua, as we all know, is sort of a innate nature. Well, I mean, that's redundant, but he wants to put a team on his back and he tries to do too much. He ends up usually getting hurt. But as of right now, yeah, there's no question. They have more speed with a chain now and everyone Hill and, yeah, the Penguin than I think Mostert, who was a speed guy as well before we saw a chain, than anyone else in the NFL. It's not even close. To compare them to the Rams, though, no, the Rams had 5 Hall of Famers, 1 back. They didn't have 3, and Marshall Faulk was a Hall of Famer. Kurt Warner was a Hall of Famer. Isaac Bruce was a Hall of Famer. Orlando Pace, Ohio State's own, who is arguably the best left tackle in NFL history, and head coach Dick Vermeil. While I love McDaniel, he's not Dick Vermeil. Different era, and I don't think, unfortunately, Tua can stay healthy. But I love this team, and I love McDaniel, who comes from the same coaching tree, by the way, as Nathaniel Hackett, laying it on that dick face Sean Payton.
I agree 100% on that one. Tyreek Hill made quite a proclamation before the start of the season. He said he wants 2,000 yards, which if he gets that, he would pass Megatron here in Detroit in 2012. Kelvin Johnson had 1,964 yards. So 2,000 would be an unbelievable stat. Brandon, he's going hard after it. Do you think he's got a legitimate chance for 2,000 yards receiving?
Small sample size so far, but yeah, I mean, he's on pace for over 2,300 yards right now, and that's just insane. It's all going to come down to Tua. Can he stay healthy? Or is this, defensive coordinators are smart too in the NFL, and they're going to watch game film and they're going to start to exploit some weaknesses here or there. Now, speed you can't match up with. That's tough, but you can scheme for it. And I think the offense will slow down, but it is by far the most explosive and the best offense thus far in the NFL. And, I don't see it slowing down in, the next couple of weeks for sure. But, yeah, can he reach that? It's clearly in reach and reasonable at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only one stopping them would be the Miami Dolphins, and a potential Tua situation where he has God forbid he has another concussion. That would be devastating for them.
Well, he's
As
been
it
taking
really
like jiu-jitsu
jujitsu, yeah, learning
like
how to.
fall so he doesn't get hurt. And I
Yeah,
mean,
you got to like that fact that he's putting in the work to avoid possible injuries. That just kind of tells you where his head's at in the NFL season and how much it is important to him. Raj, I look at coaching very trendy. You get a lot of these guys. Obviously, the Belichick tree. The hot one now is the Shanahan tree, and it's no different with Mike McDaniels. He's very unique. He's young. He kind of speaks the language of a lot of these players that are on his team. Do you see GMs kind of looking at Mike McDaniels as kind of like the blueprint of future teams, how they want their coaches to run? Just kind of a free, kind of flowing type of coach, but he's got a hell of an offensive scheme, and he just seems to know how to motivate players. Do you see a lot of GMs maybe looking to him as potential coaches that they might want running their team?
He looks like Millhouse to me, but kind of like a young John Gruden coming up. I think it's all about not only his intelligence and innovative mind, but his honesty and strength. He has acknowledged and discussed his alcoholism, which is something that, especially in football, in life, is very difficult to acknowledge, let alone do something about it, let alone in a room full of guys like that, as a 150-pound dude with glasses, talk about and reveal his vulnerabilities. And he did that from day one, and he showed them his strength, and he earned their trust, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So I do believe in that sense it's a bit unique in that this just seemed like a good fit. But yeah, most guys at that age would come in and try to be wonderkind and or wonder kid if you're Ted Lassoing it. But he knows, and he admits, and you can see it in his face, that dealing with alcoholism has made him a better father, most importantly, and a better coach. And you can't bullshit kids. And in this case, I'm talking about football players as kids. You just can't bullshit them, and they know, they see it.
Yeah. I think he's great. I think he's very refreshing for the NFL, and I do see a lot of players looking at him and saying, "Man, I want to play for that guy." A lot like Dan Campbell here, not your usual type of coach. So moving on to another game last week that you knew it was coming, folks. You knew it was coming. You knew Dak Prescott was going to go Dak Prescott at some point in the season. It came a little bit sooner than I think we can all agree on. Not a very productive day for Dak. Throws a huge interception late in the fourth. All I saw was 3 red jerseys around. Not really sure who he was trying to throw to, but that's par for the course for Dak Prescott.
Hey, are we putting it all on him? Because the defense, who was number 1 in the NFL, allowed 30
I agree.
For 222 yards.
But when you needed
4 yards every time, Arizona touched
but
the ball.
This is typical Dallas Cowboy football.
Oh, I agree.
This is typical, and this is typical Dak. He had an opportunity to kind of one up when a defense is not doing what they're usually expected to do. He didn't get it done. Brandon, was the NFL world maybe duped a little bit in the first 3 weeks of the season? Because, I mean, like I've said in previous shows, the best football player in the world right now is Micah Parsons. He did not have a Micah Parsons type game, although he did get a big sack late in the third, which did not propel the Cowboys. But were the Cowboys a little overhyped here early on in the season?
Yeah, I mean, they took us all by surprise. I mean, throwing up 40 on the Giants, this is the game I expected to see week one.
Yeah.
Cowboys are always overhyped. They typically cowboy every game and do something like this where they may have the most talent on the field, but somehow they find a way to shoot themselves in the foot and lose it. And this is what I expected out of the Cowboy. Now, I was fooled. Curtain pulled over my eyes first 2 weeks. I was like, okay, maybe they turned over a new leaf.
Mm-hmm.
And then they play the Cardinals and Josh Dobbs and just cowboy it up more than a cowboy could do it. I mean, this is the greatest irony in NFL. This is why NFL is so hard to judge, because any given day, anybody can beat anybody. And I'll say that. So they throw up 40 on the Giants. Giants beat the Cardinals. Cardinals beat the Cowboys. It's like, what?
Go
Like,
figure.
how do you make sense of that?
How did Vegas make out on this game, you think?
They got
my God.
raced on this.
Wow.
Dude. Like,
Wow.
No, I think a lot of people were on Dallas, and I think the
Mhm.
house won a ton of money, dude.
Well, Raj, you mentioned their defense didn't perform. The news broke last week that their star corner, Trayvon Diggs, out for the year, torn ACL. Is that maybe a reason that their defense kind of faltered, or was just a group effort that they weren't able to get it done? Made Josh Dobbs look really good, and then on the flip side of that, Jerry Jones is never happy. He's never satisfied. How short is McCarthy's leash? If he's losing games that he absolutely has no business losing, how long before Jerry Jones says, "Dude, you can take your pencil and your hat and get out of here"?
So to answer your first question, I do think it played an effect, because if you look at the Arizona game, what Arizona did offensively, even with Josh Dobbs, they had 16 first downs, and even though they averaged 7.6 and ran for 200, again, I just said it, 222 yards, they had 8 first downs on the ground and 8 first downs in the air. And that tells us that when he had to make a play, when the Dallas defense had to step up, the defense did not.
Mm-hmm.
And an extremely efficient team. I can't believe I'm saying any of this. I don't know what effect it had, but it's obvious that, Dallas was shell-shocked. We also, I'd be remiss if I didn't state that, if you ever have more than 100 yards in penalties, you're going to lose the game. That's a touchdown, at least. Dallas had 13 for 107. So transitioning to coaching, Mike McCarthy has historically had crap disciplined teams. When it comes to Jerry Jones, you've got a coach that constantly stays too long with one guy. Ironically enough, not Jimmy Johnson. Switzer, I believe, stepped down for health reasons. But if you go back to Wade Phillips, there were 2 divisional losses when they were 13-3, I believe. And then he went 1-7 and they fired him. Jason Garrett, I can't believe, had like 3 or 4 years more than he should have had. And Mike McCarthy, he won his Super Bowl with Green Bay when they were 10-6. But you look at his career, and there was a few 13-3s and 15-1, and he's choked. And there's an ethos, an ethic about the Dallas Cowboys that they will choke. They will fold, especially the better that they are, the more favored they are, the more prominent the team. And the question is this the type of coach like a Mike McDaniel that theoretically that inspires a team like this? And it's obvious no. And I'm not just saying that because he looks like a doughboy. I'm just saying that they've proven time and time again that when it matters the most, whether Dak, who I don't know why you hate him personally, but no, I mean, whatever it is, the Dallas Cowboys choke. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't hate Dak Prescott. When he looks good, they just absolutely crown him and put him on a pedestal. But you know that there's going to be a game where he just doesn't perform, and usually it comes later in the season. So this year it came early. Maybe he can build on that. We'll see. But I think it all comes down to the infatuation that the country has with the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, all the talking heads had them going to the Super Bowl, the best team in the league. And I'm like, this happens every year. It's the same script. I mean, it's Groundhog Day all over again down in Dallas. But coming back up to my neck of the woods, another raucous crowd in Ford Field. They stepped up, and I wasn't sure how the atmosphere was going to be after they lose week 2 to Seattle. Detroit Lion Twitter, everybody was panicking, jumping off the bandwagon. Like I said last week, local radio was cutting them down. But this team went through a lot of injuries, and they persevered. They get the win, dominant fashion against the Falcons. 7 sacks. The Lions, I think they had 1 sack coming into the game. They get 7. Hutchinson has 2. But the bright spot in this game was the rookies. The 4 first picks that the Lions took, that a lot of the so-called talking heads, experts, criticized Brad Holmes and the Lions for taking Jahmyr Gibbs. He had almost 100 all-purpose yards.
Laporta.
Sam Laporta, who tied a tight
baby.
end rookie record with 18 receptions in his first 3 games. He had a big touchdown in the first half. Jack Campbell comes away with a sack. He was all over the field. And this guy right here, who, if you didn't know him, you better get used to his name. The man puts his mouthpiece in the top of his helmet. Brian Branch, ladies and gentlemen. They're calling him a Amon-Ra 2.0 here because he's the steal of the draft. 2nd round pick. Why on God's green earth he would didn't get drafted until mid-2nd round is beyond me, and I think he's using that as motivation. He was an absolute beast on the football field.
What was Amon-Ra? He was 4th, but like
4th round pick
or something. And he keeps every receiver.
He can name all 16 receivers
and I
that
knew
were ahead
right
of him.
away. Him and Hufanga, first team All-American.
So, Raj, I'll start with you. Seeing how he performed, I mean, the guy can have a clinic on tackling and just covering sideline to sideline. Is he a candidate early on for Defensive Rookie of the Year in the NFL?
Absolutely. I mean, you rarely go wrong, although Mike Mayock with the Raiders believed in only drafting Bama and Clemson players, and that didn't work out too well. But you rarely go wrong with especially an underrated Alabama player, because I've said this before about USC back in the day, Ohio State during their time, Alabama. Some of these stars the NFL believe have already been coached up. They've maxed. And a guy that's underrated like Brian Branch is a guy you want to jump on. Mm-hmm. And to get him in the 2nd round was just a coup. He has such a high ceiling. Now, my fear is that with that back 7, although linebackers are actually, playing great, especially when they get into some of these, more of these passing teams. I know they played Kansas City, but it was week 1 on Thursday. he's going to be making a lot of tackles like he did against Atlanta. 11 tackles, all solo. So what does that tell you at safety? On a almost exclusively running team. So does he, as of right now, is he the most impressive defensive rookie? Hell yeah. But do I fear that he won't make it throughout the year? I do.
Here's another guy that finished second in Defensive Rookie of the Year last year in Aiden Hutchinson. Brandon, he was your nemesis, as a Buckeye fan. He went to Michigan.
He couldn't resist.
There's two Buckeyes in Nick Bosa and what's the other Bosa? Joey Bosa. Wow, I had a brain fart. Sorry, folks. And then there's TJ Watt. There's TJ Watt and there's Max Crosby. There's some really, really
Micah Parsons.
He technically, he lines up on the end. So there's some
just doing white guys.
Outstanding. No, I wasn't just doing white guys. All right, Chris Jones, we'll see. There's some outstanding defensive ends in this league. Where would you put Aiden Hutchinson at this point in his career amongst some of the big boys?
Like pure D end or just like pass rusher period? Just because there's a lot of linebackers thrown in there in this mix. He is moving up the ranks for sure. Like he's getting better. He's getting faster. He's learning, the moves in the NFL. I don't think he's quite in the top probably 7 yet, but he's getting there. And I think he's going to be a Pro Bowler. Kid's got a motor. He's a leader on that team as well. I think he's got everything in front of him. I don't think he's quite there yet, but I think he's got a ton of potential to be there.
I think that's a fair assessment. And using last week's game as a reference point, he was contained for the most part up until that fourth quarter, and then they just wore out that offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
So I think once it becomes more of a consistent 48-minute performance, sure. I think you can put him in that conversation.
He's in the scheme. They're starting to scheme for him now. He's not just a guy on the other side. They're starting to scheme and work on, double teams here and there with him. So he's definitely in the conversation. He's moving his way up for sure.
That's what was said about Khalil Mack. When the Raiders traded him, other coordinators were like, the hell are they doing? You have to game plan for that guy. Mm-hmm. And you have to game plan for Aiden Hutchinson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's getting noticed for that, for sure. Man.
Seattle did a great job with him. They chipped the heck out of him. And, he had I think it was 13 pressures, but he never got to the quarterback. A part of that was Geno Smith's ability to kind of get away, to scramble, his athleticism. But Seattle kind of, to me, wrote the blueprint on how to, defend against him. Just, throw another defender on him. But we'll see. I'm excited.
The chip is underrated. The chip goes a long way.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does.
And it buys you a half a second.
Yeah,
it's a huge ordeal for the quarterback to release the ball. So
he can step up, especially if you're coming off that right side.
Yeah, it's a very.
If he gets chipped, now he can step up in the pocket and make that throw. And Geno kind of picked apart that secondary. So, but a good win.
In Aiden's defense, real quick, if you look at the top 15 in PFF, he's 15th. But if you look ahead of him, you got a bunch of teammates: Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. Bosa and that whole defense. Myles Garrett at number 2, Zadarius Smith at number 8. Crosby's about the only outsider or outlier. Durant Armstrong for the Cowboys. So you got a guy that doesn't, on stat sheet, analytically have the same help that others do. And he's a second-year player who, again, you have to game plan for, and it's still making a constant impact.
No, dude, I totally agree. That he's.
Oh, I wasn't contradicting you. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
this guy,
he is. He's gonna be there. I think he's a year or two away from being in Myles Garrett, Aaron Donald, type conversations.
Well, against the run, there is a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah.
Would you agree, Tom?
I do. But this week, Isaiah Buggs, who they signed last year off the trash heap, got another contract 1 year, kind of fell out of favor of Dan Campbell. They had to play him this week, and it showed. This guy, him alongside Aleem McNeil, who was maybe the steal of the draft 2 years ago, that middle was nasty. They got pressure up that middle, which kind of freed up the ends there. So, and that helped in their run defense, because coming into that game, all the talk was it's the battle of the 2 first-round running backs. And, a lot of people were like, Bijan's going to have a field day here. And the Lions stopped him. They held him to, I think it was like 40 yards rushing. So they did a great job in that. You know what? That came up the middle. And that, I think, all the talk, even around the NFL, is the D ends. That's the sexy position. But when you have a nose tackle, you have a interior defenseman that can get to the quarterback, that can get to those running backs and plug those holes, man, you're going to have a good day on the football field. And Detroit kind of showed that this week. And I love Isaiah Buggs, because Brad Holmes last year went and got a lot of guys off the trash heap. A lot of teams cut them, and he picked them up, and they fit the mold. And Isaiah Buggs definitely fit that mold. So it was disappointing to see that he was a scratch the first couple weeks of the season. So I hope whatever happened in that locker room has been taken care of, and we see more of him in the future, especially tonight against Green Bay. I love this game. I can't wait for it, but we'll get to that later.
I think Dan Campbell got to him, if I can say real quick. He's an Alabama guy. He fell to the 6th round. He's kind of like that fat dude, Cody, who blocked that kick back in the day. But, he's 27. Eventually, you had to get to him. I talked about them being coached up to the top.
Yeah.
It seems like he's not going to fill up a stat sheet, but he's a guy who can play inside and outside and free up a guy like Aiden Hutchinson. And I was going to say real quick about Detroit. Again, I've said it before. They went trenches for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I love Levi, a 2nd-round pick. But that's the difference between the Detroit Lions this year and years past, is depth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it started 3 years ago when they drafted Penei Sewell. That was the direction that they were going. That's the direction that they sold us all on. And they told us to be patient, that the game begins and ends in the trenches, and they've done that on both sides of the ball. So I'm all in on it.
Your fans need to learn a fucking lesson, though. They expect them to go 16-0.
Yeah,
I remember when the Raiders beat the Pittsburgh was 14-2, and one of the losses was to a 2-win Raiders team. It's the NFL.
Yeah,
they need to chill.
Oh, I agree. That was my rant last week in my final words. But
I remember.
You guys mentioned Myles Garrett. This guy is an absolute force to be reckoned with. A couple weeks ago, when he was doing the basketball move, and the guy's incredible against the Bengals. This past week, sorry, Brandon, 3.5 sacks against the Titans. Definitely took Tannehill out of this game. Their offense.
I hope we're tanking for Caleb Williams right now.
Is he more athletic than Parsons? I mean, he can do kind of like Mookie Betts.
Based on size, are you going pound for pound? Yes.
He's like Mookie, dude. He's also a high IQ guy.
But there's a comparison.
Stepping on faces.
Super cerebral guy.
Okay. Yeah. It's like comparing who's the MVP, Mookie Betts or Ronald Acuna. I mean, you can't go wrong in any of those regards. But
it's a coin flip. They're freak athletes, and they're great in their position, and
he's got a sick secondary.
Yeah, you get some other help around there that relieves a little pressure. It allows them to shine. I mean, this is what you get. That Titans game was atrocious. Myles Garrett just whipped everyone all over the field. So
30th ranked offensive line in the NFL, by the way, the Tennessee Titans.
yeah, we're you thought the Cardinals were tanking? Well, then they bring in Josh Dobbs and beat the Cowboys. We are tanking. The Titans,
but not on purpose, because Derrick Henry.
Not on purpose.
Better.
No. Trade Derrick Henry. Poor Derrick Henry, man. Give him his last 2 or 3 years with a good team.
Yeah,
that guy.
I agree.
Like trade him to somebody that's got a Super Bowl chance. He deserves a Super Bowl.
It's like Mike Trout in baseball. He's never going to win with the Angels. Trade him to a team that's going to have an opportunity to get him in the postseason and see what he can do. But maybe the AFC North is one of the better divisions in football. I think coming in, we didn't think that might be the case, but 3 of the 4 teams are 2-1. Cincinnati finally got off the schneid this past Monday. They lost a big piece of their offense in Nick Chubb, which thankfully it looks like it's just an MCL tear, which is beyond me. I can't believe your leg can bend that way, and you only have one ligament tear on the outside or on the inside, which is, thank the Lord with that he should be able to recover. But Raj, yes, they go and get Kareem Hunt, who's familiar with the offense. And they had a guy in Ford, Jerome Ford, who to me looked like Nick Chubb 2.0. He a lot of running style, just like him. But how big of a loss is Chubb to this team? Is it a loss that could possibly prevent them in getting to a playoff spot?
That's a great question. If you notice with the Cleveland Browns, you have an amazing offensive line led by Joel Bitonio, Jedrick Willis, Ethan Pochich, who's just a super and an amazingly underrated center. Wyatt Teller, and then to a lesser extent, right tackle DeJuan Jones. They are all north and south guys. So you won't see a lot of anything else out of there. So Ford, who's a big back, Kareem Hunt, who can do a little bit of everything. Behind that offensive line, there's not a huge deviation. Now, that being said, I'm not going to underestimate or quote-unquote limit the impact or abilities of a guy like Nick Chubb, who also, doesn't do it a lot, but he can catch the ball out of the backfield, 20, 25, 30. Not a part of their offense a ton, which is odd because Deshaun Watson sucks. But, no, it's it seems like even last year it was Deontay Foreman, or a year or two ago. They kind of fill that spot with these big backs. But Nick Chubb does it the best. So I don't know if they don't win anything of significance, it won't be the defense and it won't be the running game. It won't be the offensive line. It will be
the quarterback,
Deshaun Watson.
I agree.
Did you guys were they even on the radar for a playoff team or potential win in a playoff game?
Probably not.
I don't think the defense,
even before Nick
I
Chubb.
didn't expect the defense to be this good. And Zadarius Smith with Nick Chubb has been just
Delpit's finally playing.
He's
the way they drafted him. So
could
for now, secondary is outstanding.
I think, I don't know what their schedule looks like. I'm sure we've got some tougher games in the Titans coming up. But they weren't even on the radar as a consideration.
Well, I think because of the North is, it was going to be the Ravens and it's going to be the Bengals. And I think they were outshadowing them.
Could this be the team in Ohio now? Look at the struggles the Bengals are having right now.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
Well,
Well,
it's the NFL. You never know. With that defense, I mean, all Deshaun has to do is not screw it up. If he
don't
can be
don't
an
don't
Alex
be
Smith,
Deshaun Watson.
he can be an
That-
Alex Smith and just game manage.
Yep.
That defense has been fantasy cash money.
Yeah.
By the way.
Well, Brandon, you mentioned tanking for Caleb Williams, and if that was the case, they had the opportunity to take Caleb Williams. That would be 3 years in a row they take a quarterback, which that's problematic in itself.
Shocker.
What I guess what will it take, and will we ever see Tannehill get benched this season?
You get this.
God, I hope so. I mean, let's just go ahead and figure out. Let's stop
Are you-
toying around with.
Done defending him, you and Robbie. We can win with
Why
you.
did we even draft Levis? Is unbeknownst to me. Like, that was the worst pick in the draft. My opinion, I did not want him on our team. So, all right. So you draft him. You think you get a good, value pick there. Well, all right. We lose 1 or 2 more games. Throw him in there. What do you got to lose?
Right.
Willis is. I mean, he might be serviceable as a backup in the NFL, like a Josh Dobbs or somebody. They can come in and beat the Cowboys. But
you guys are the new Raiders. You're overvaluing shitty quarterbacks.
It's so bad.
Drafting them so early.
That's what I'm saying. Just go ahead and put them out there. What do you got to lose?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to win the season. The Jags are better than us. Obviously, the Texans are going to be.
I mean, are we underselling Houston? They go to Jacksonville.
Second. I've got a lot to say about that. But the Titans window is damn near slammed shut at this point. And it's about. I love Vrabel. He's a great coach, and what he's done with injuries in the last 2 years, 81 players in the roster. I mean, he's done a phenomenal job. But at some point, you got to rely on some of your other coaches as well, and your recruiting talent. And it just hadn't been there on the offensive side. We've missed first-round picks for the last 10 years. It's been bad. Henry, was a trade up in the 3rd round. And we grabbed him, and he was phenomenal. But now his window's closing.
Yeah,
like let the guy go to a team that we can get a couple picks out of, that they got a chance to win a Super Bowl with this guy, because he's worked too hard to just ride off in the sunset on a shit wagon.
Yeah,
and
he's at a point in his career where, I mean, he's a bruiser.
He's got 2 years left, maybe.
He needs an offensive line. He needs an offensive line, and you just don't have it in Tennessee.
And we're not even giving him the ball right now. Like, we can't even afford to, because we're behind.
Playing from behind.
Yeah.
For you old heads, Earl Campbell is what he reminds me of.
That's true. That's a great
really good analogy there.
Yep. So let's go around the league, talk about some other things that happened last week. Vikings, man. Raj, is your phone plugged into the charger?
It is.
Yeah, it keeps tripping out.
I'm not Rob, but it is.
Oh, did I say Rob? I thought I said Raj.
No. I'm saying I'm not Robbie, meaning that it is plugged in.
Oh, okay. So the Vikings lose at home again to the Chargers. Cousins throws an interception, albeit I don't think it was his fault. So now they're 0-3. The Chargers salvaged their season. That could have been disastrous. And Brandon Staley definitely would have been on the hot seat after that if they would have lost. But it's no secret the Jets are in an absolute dire situation. They need a quarterback. Zach Wilson is just absolutely not the answer. He's thrown 4 interceptions to 1 touchdown thus far this season. And Robert Saleh, God bless him, he's a Dearborn kid. Has a lot of kids too, 7. But he's towing the company line. Zach Wilson's our guy. Zach Wilson's our guy. I don't believe it. I just don't believe he believes that. The Jets need to go do something, and they need to do something fast. And Robbie brought it up about 3 weeks ago. You got Kirk Cousins that's almost on an expiring contract. They're 0-3. I think their season's done. They're going to lose Justin Jefferson at the end of this season, is my opinion. The Jets actually have the ability to salvage the season right now if they had the right quarterback in a position. I think Kirk Cousins could be that guy because he has the weapons. Do you think it's time, Raj, for the Jets to make the phone call and say, what's it going to take to get Kirk Cousins? And if not Kirk Cousins, who? Because Colin Kaepernick wrote a letter to them. You know, they're not going that way. Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz have reached out to the Jets. I don't think those are other options that they have. But Miami also has a backup quarterback that used to play in the Jets. That's Mike White, who, boy, I wish I bet they wish they had Mike White. But what do you think it's going to take for the Jets?
Could get $2,000 because Skylar Thompson is not the backup Mike White, who's a gunslinger, is. Let me ask you guys this. The flip side would be Minnesota. We all know that they won just an insane amount of games by less than 7 points last year, one score. But other than Harrison Smith, can you guys name one Minnesota defender, which, by the way, is the worst defense in the NFL? And my point being is they lost to the Bucs by 3. They lost to the Eagles by 6 and came all the way back at Philly. They lost to the Chargers by 4. 1 or 2 plays, and these are all different. 1 or 2 defenders, and this is all different. So the flip side of Cousins leaving is that Minnesota that's a winnable division, to say the least, aside from Detroit, who's the favorite now, which is, that they could make a few deals, get a few guys healthy, and again, be right there. They've played good teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they lost a lot.
Of course, the
Jets
need to do something, and they're full of shit. But
yeah,
they weren't great at defense before, but they're in every game, losing by 3, losing by 6, losing by 4, and their offensive weapons are insane. So the counter to me would be like Minnesota could make a deal for 1 or 2 guys up in their front 7. But yeah, the Jets obviously need to do something. Wilson, it's if you watch Hard Knocks, he's giggling and laughing with Aaron Rodgers. Everything's great. He's not giggling and laughing anymore.
No, he's not. He is just not. I mean, number 2 pick out of BYU. I think it's a Trey Lance type of situation where small sample size. I think everyone got a little excited with not a lot of tape on the guys, but it's just proven he doesn't make good decisions. And this team has so much hype and expectations that you lose Rodgers, now their season's going the other way. So they have to do something, in my opinion.
You draft Garrett Wilson in fantasy, and
I do too, and he's on my bench. He's on my bench because I don't trust Zach Wilson. So
one of my other leagues, I did the Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson combo. Let me tell you how that's working out. This is
isn't that a Robbie Davis move?
Yeah,
Mahomes and Kelsey.
What's that?
You did a Robbie Davis move.
Well,
Mahomes and Kelsey.
It's a 2 quarterback league, 14 teams, 8 bench spots. I mean, there is 0 on the waiver wire. So if you get one guy hurt, your season's done.
Yep.
My season was done in 75 seconds of the Jets.
Jeez. Well, here's another game that I guarantee you no one saw coming. The Indianapolis Colts going into Baltimore and stunning the Ravens in overtime. Lamar didn't look very good. Threw for 202, no touchdowns. He did lead the team in rushing, and I think this is going to become a problem for the Ravens when your quarterback is your leading rusher. they're going to put a lot of pressure on him, and I don't think that bodes very well for Baltimore moving forward. But this is a game a lot like Dallas. They had no business losing, and the Colts were minus Richardson. They were going with Minshew madness, and this guy just seems to step up the big games. Raj, is it panic time in Baltimore? Maybe, and I guess I'll ask you too, Brandon. With that being said, in a division that it's pretty damn competitive, and like I said earlier, everybody's 2-1 except for Cincinnati. The Steelers went into Vegas and their defense is pretty solid. So, are the Ravens on kind of notice here?
Man, that's a
Raj?
loaded question. I think they overlooked the Colts here in this situation with Richardson out, Colts just being down, not projected to do well. But yeah, the running game, they're missing Dobbins. Got injured first or second game this season. Struggling there a little bit.
Gus Edwards had a concussion halfway through. He had 11 for 51 when that happened.
So, I mean, they've got a few struggles in the backfield. And look, we all know in the NFL, it is a passing league, but if you can't run the ball, you're not going to do well in the NFL. I mean, that's just a fact. Like, regardless of the passing game, you've got to be able to run the ball. You've got to have that play action in your back pocket. And when Jackson's your leading rusher, which he's been, the past couple of years, but that's kind of scat and busted plays. You got to have at least some honesty up front. And when they know that there's nobody there, I mean, you don't have to put 8 in the box. You can play nickel and dime all day, and you got 5 DBs out there. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you can't beat that if you can't run the ball. So
yeah,
that's Raj, something that I think they'll get together, but I don't think it's time to punt yet on them.
I was shocked that I picked up Zach Moss in pretty much most of my leagues. I did not start him because I thought at Baltimore, no way. I was shocked he was able to do what he did, which was 30 carries, 122 yards. But most importantly, just move the chains. What's crazy is, like, this was like the average yards per pass or reception were like 5 yards for both teams. It was pretty ugly. Yeah, Lamar did all of the running after Gus Edwards went out. But there were turnovers for both teams, but the difference is Indianapolis recovered 3 fumbles, whereas Baltimore lost 2, and Indianapolis lost 0. And those 2 turnovers were the difference in the game.
Yeah.
It surprised me, but with Minshew and kind of like Mike White, they're the same guy. They're gunslingers, and if they don't make mistakes, the odds are they win.
Yeah, that's a fair estimation. I mean, the league is very as a matter of fact, and I see it here. Like I said, after week 2, everyone was jumping off the bandwagon, and you could see it even in the time we got to the tailgate. Did not look like it did the week prior, but it eventually filled up, and Ford Field was raucous. But people panic, and I think that's just the name of this league, especially when you're in a competitive division like the AFC North is at this moment. So we'll see how it goes. But Brandon, you mentioned talking about the Texans and your boy CJ Stroud. He is quietly putting himself together a very, very good season, we'll say. 280 yards passing. The week prior, he threw for over 300. Ironically enough, he's got more 300-yard passing games than Justin Fields, which is kind of crazy to me. But he's looked damn good. He's looked damn good, and he's kind of proven why Houston took him so high. What do you think about Houston? This is your division. Coming in, everybody was high and mighty on Jacksonville. I do think they'll figure it out, but I think Houston has been really competitive. Winning this past week at Jacksonville, winning soundly 37-17. You know, in the previous week they were competitive. They didn't get the win, but they were right in the mix. So, how good can Houston be in this division, and do they have a chance at maybe competing for first place?
Absolutely, they do. I think they can win this division. They fleeced the draft on everybody. They got 10 times better off, 3 picks in the draft. And, CJ Stroud he's playing within himself right now. He's not trying to do too much. He is reading defenses well. He's not forcing anything. He hasn't thrown an interception yet in 3 games. I mean, he will probably go down, and mark my words on this, because Ohio State is not known for producing quarterbacks in the NFL, right? Like, we're more wide receiver, linebacker, defensive end, running back, those kind of guys. Quarterbacks are not what Ohio State produces. He's going to be the best quarterback Ohio State has ever produced. Justin Fields, bad situation for him, but he doesn't have quite the poise. He's quite a bit more mobile than CJ. CJ's more of an NFL prototype. He sits in the pocket. He reads the defense. He
runs when he has to.
He's very, very good at that. Fields is first option and tuck it and run, like if his first option. So completely different. And he's on the Bears. So, I mean, that whole organization. Don't even get me started there.
I don't think he has
from the 100-year-old
drive either.
From the 100-year-old owner to the GM polls. I mean, it's just they need to revamp top down. But anyway, no, CJ, and one of his best traits was accuracy, which is very transferable to NFL. You can be coached, and he's coachable. So I think they're going to do good, and I think they got to get a really good shot to win the AFC South, because it is a shit division, and I'm telling you, dude, they've got as good a shot as anybody.
Yeah, I mean, if they go down and play like they did against the division foe on the road, you definitely like their chances. I think for me, Justin Fields' biggest issue is you look at him, and a lot like Sam Hartman last week in the Notre Dame game, he just looks lost. He looks uninspired. I think a lot of it has to do with he has no offensive line. He's getting his ass kicked every week.
I think he feels like he's got to check down because or tuck it and run because he's hitting every 1.5 seconds.
He doesn't have time to throw, and it's unfortunate because he is a talent. But
I think the Texans have lost 4 or 5 starters out of injury at one point or another on the offensive line. I'll say this. I think CJ Stroud, color me shocked, looks more comfortable in the NFL than he did at Ohio State. And the other thing I'll say is we talked about the Titans, the Raiders, other teams that are not Detroit that draft crappy dudes that don't produce. Detroit does the opposite. Houston has done the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Stroud, Will Anderson, even Juice Scruggs, the center from Penn State. We saw what Tank Dell from Houston did, 7 for 145 last week. These guys are producing. Toto, the former Toto,
Alabama.
I don't mean that in a racial sense, but the Tennessee folks will tell you he's from there first, but he saw greener pastures. However, he had 10 tackles. they've just done a great job of maximizing their talent. And
Yeah.
they've owned, if you look at the statistics, they've owned Jacksonville, and they've won like 7 in a row in Jacksonville. But like you guys both said, and Brandon said, this is such a winnable division. And whether it's this year or not, you've got rookies all over, a second-year running back and a rookie quarterback with a great, what appears to be. This is a team you got to watch out for in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. And it starts with their ability to draft needs, not necessarily the names, although Will Anderson and CJ Stroud were the name coming out, and they're backing it up. They're proving their worth here.
You know,
It
it's
helps
sad
having
when I
2
wanna
top
go-
5 picks. That helps.
You know, it's sad when I want to go to a Titans game at home versus the Texans just to watch CJ Stroud play more than I do my Titans.
Oh, yeah.
That is
Sad days down there in Nashville. Well, the NFL is heading to London this weekend, the first of 5 games. Disney Plus is doing a Toy Story a rendition of the game. That should be interesting. Looking forward to that. 9:30 a.m. kick. Falcons and the Jags, the aforementioned Jaguars. All the talk, and this has been going on every year, I think, right around this time when they're getting ready to play over there. It's no secret the NFL wants a team in London. And I do believe that, working out the kinks, we'll say, logistically, how the players are going to react. I think they're going to work. Do you see sometime within the next 5 years, Brandon, the NFL moving to a London market? Because clearly there is a demand for it. And if not London, maybe Germany, where they packed the house there, in what Tom Brady said it was like a Super Bowl atmosphere. But is it time for the NFL to make that big jump over to the European market?
I think it's definitely going to happen. I mean, NFL, they're so big now, and that's their reach, and they're reaching out there and receiving good feedback from across the pond. And the thought of another expansion team and like what that would do, or if another team picks up and moves, I don't know how it's all going to play out, but I do see London being heavily involved within the next 5 years.
Raj, what's your take on that? And I guess I'll ask another question. Canada, specifically Toronto, huge football market, albeit they're on the other side is the Bills. But it's interesting to me that you don't hear the conversation of them maybe going into Canada. Is that maybe because the Canadian Football League is kind of a big market there? And then again, what is your take on the possibility of the NFL, expanding to the European market?
I do think the CFL plays a role, and there's a lot of nationalism in Canada, as we all know. But also, I was just in Toronto like 6 weeks ago, and they're not stopped by any of that. The Blue Jays were just a huge crowd, but a lot of Canadians and Torontoans, tarantulas. They love the Bills. They love the Lions. They love the Vikings. They don't give a shit. They still love the NFL.
They're pretty domesticated.
It doesn't. Yeah. I mean,
those Canadians.
It doesn't.
They put gravy on everything.
They don't care. Whereas with London, if Cal and Stanford can fly 8 hours and be part of the ACC, then why not an entirely new market? And the NFL is really testing this whole Toy Story thing, which is brilliant, really. But you're starting a game at 9:30 East Coast, 6:30 West Coast. The kids get up, watch football. The biggest growing demographic with the NFL was women. That's out. Women are already all on board. Now it's
Not after this past
Now with
weekend.
the Swifties.
well,
Not after this weekend.
They're
Oh
back with
my.
the Swifties.
we're not gonna go there. But the point being is that now you got kids and obviously an international presence, and it's 7 hours from New York City. They can align divisions and put East Coast teams, New England and whatnot. It would not be difficult. There's so many expats there, and they just want to be fans of anything, cricket, soccer, whatever. Yes, I would have said no a few years ago. Now, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I think NFL is just they have a knack to find what's hot, and they put themselves in positions like you said, Raj. Kids get up for Saturday morning cartoons. Why not watch one of the most successful movie franchises,
Toy Story, of
a
all
Toy
things.
Story, and actually watching a real live football game, which I can't wait to see what that looks like. But I think that it's genius. It's absolutely genius, and it makes sense. It's just like I said, logistically, that I don't think they've figured it out. But once they do, they'll get it right.
There you
So.
go.
I'd like to watch Shrek NBA like 30 years ago and smoke a ton of weed because that would be sweet. But I mean, just picture those two franchises coming together.
Yeah.
Not just Disney, but Toy Story and the NFL. It's really insane.
Well,
they know what they're doing.
They've incorporated Nickelodeon in the games, the playoff games, with Slime and SpongeBob and all that stuff. So
it's obviously
to grasp the kids, and it worked. It definitely did. So we're gonna go Coach Hot Seat rapid fire real quickly. Who's on the hot seat? And we'll start, Brandon, we'll start with you. Sean Payton, boy, he ran his yapper in the preseason, and he's looking like a chode right about now. Is he on the hot seat in Denver?
I don't think so because of his name. I think it buys him probably another year or two. He didn't choose this quarterback. He didn't, blah, 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 whatever. I think he's got another year or two.
Yeah, I agree. His name kind of gets him an extra year, but I don't think he'll be loose-lipped as he was in this preseason.
Agree.
Raj, Matt Eberflus in Chicago. Hot seat? And how?
Yeah. Well, real quick, Peyton, it could be an Urban Meyer, but now we know it was legit. But you can fake a heart attack type thing when you're that age and just replace him. Eberflus is fucked. I mean, you're a defensive coach and you have an historically bad defense since you took over in September of 2021, I think, or 22. Just awful. And that's his job. They've lost 12 in a row? I mean, how is he
12
still
or 13?
in 13?
Mid-October, last game they won.
And again, a guy like Fields, you look at the stats, and you're like, oh yeah, well, that's pretty. They're trash, man. The entire team, aside from the quarterback, is awful. How he is employed is beyond me. There's only one other franchise, maybe aside from Dallas, that would do something like this, and that's the next one that Chain's about to talk about when you ask him.
Brandon Staley. Brandon Chain, is he on the hot seat? Did he save his season by going into Minnesota and coming home with a win?
Save his season? No. I mean, he's got the worst defense, I think, in the NFL right now, and he's a defensive coach. Yeah. I don't know what's going on here. I don't think he's going to be there much longer. After this year, I think, they lose again next year and he's gone. He might even be fired mid-season next year.
Yeah, he last year I think he was competing with Dan Campbell for how many times you could go for it on fourth down. Just made a lot of bonehead decisions
on your own 25.
That cost.
Yeah,
that cost them.
He's got so much talent on that team right now. And he's
Anthony Lynn, man.
Just pissing it away. So
2 years ago.
I agree. Raj, this one's intriguing to me because he has been successful, but he's playing in a market where they expect success. They lose a playoff game last year. They start 0-3. Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. Is he potentially sitting on a hot seat, which ironically enough probably would feel pretty damn good coming up in about a month or two in Minnesota?
This is a tough one because what have they done ever, right? Like, yeah, I mean, they expect the most, but I think they also expect a lot of points to be on score.
No, we lost your audio.
When you're,
There we go.
we got it.
We got it. We're back. We're back. Folks.
Sorry, folks. We had an Amber Alert. That's a computer issues, and I'm on my phone. Amber Alert in Atlanta, Georgia, by the way, more important than anything else on earth. So please pay attention to that. But to Kevin O'Connell, I don't know what you expect out of Minnesota. You know, like to me, they are who we thought they were. Like it's like the Dallas Cowboys without expectations. They're going to win 10 to 13 games. They're going to lose in the divisional, maybe the NFC Championship. Even when they were 15-1 with Randall Cunningham and Randy Moss, they choke. Now, though, O'Connell, now he's getting into it publicly with his quarterback, which is weird because we all know how like great of a guy he is.
Golly,
that's a shucks. But he also publicly threatened to bench players in the media, which is just stuff you don't do outside of the locker room. So he's not handling things great. Again, they've lost by a small amount, but this is on management and not on him. And I think if he were to be like let go or retire, I think teams would jump on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that fair assessment?
I think it speaks greater volumes when you're doing threats to players in the media. I think that shows more of a problem within the organization, and I think that the Vikings, by all circumstances, have been considered a pretty fair, upstanding organization. So, but again, it's interesting because this is a team that won the NFC North last year, and they really didn't do anything but lose players in this past offseason. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, as the season goes on, there's going to be more coaches on the hot seat, and then we'll continue to speculate on whether how hot that seat is. Moving on to game balls and fumbles for this past week. Brandon, who do you got this week for your game ball and your fumble?
So I'm going to go game ball. Obviously, you could slide here to the Dolphins. It's pretty obvious they had a hell of a week, historical week. But I'm going to go C.J. Stroud. I might sound a little bit of a homer here, but rookie quarterback, hasn't thrown an interception yet. Just working in silence, quiet, not doing too much. And then, beat the Jags, which they were a dog in. So I like what he's doing there. I like what the Texans are doing. Like I said, I mean, this division's up for grabs, and I can see them pulling this out somehow. I mean, they fleeced everybody in the NFL in the draft, so why would they not pull out the division win? So,
right.
I like Stroud and what he's doing. The fumble, I'm going to go with the whole Titans organization and what's going on there. What a shit show, dude! And it's so hard to watch. I mean, I love Vrabel. He's a great coach, and he's trying to do everything he can. It's just, I love Shane Bowen too, D coordinator. He's great. It's just not work. Something's not working, and I think it starts with Ryan Tannehill. And I think we've got to to find a different way. I mean, we're not winning the division. Even if we did, we're not going to win a playoff game. So let's move on. We already drafted 2 quarterbacks the last 2 years. See what they got to offer. Probably going to be nothing. And then let's blow this up. Let's get Caleb Williams.
It would be a nice name, a nice face to move into a new stadium here in a couple of years if they were able to do that. Raj, who's your game ball and fumble for this past week?
I try to stay away from the Raiders when it comes to fumble because it would just be redundant. But Josh McDaniels is such a dildo. He is akin to Venables and Freeman as coordinators perpetually.
Yeah.
4th and 4 from the 8 late in the game, and he kicks a field goal when it's 23-15. I don't know what he was expecting, let alone with the Raider defense with limited timeouts. I mean, Devontae had already had 13 for 172 and 2 TDs. Yeah, Garoppolo leads the league in picks, but what are you thinking going for a field goal? I mean, I just couldn't believe it. He's just so bad, it's not even funny, and I'm going to leave it at that. And the other fumble, Sean Payton, because he's just a douche, like I said before. My game ball of the week goes to my man, Andrew Beck, the fullback for the Houston Texans, a tight end as well. He became the heaviest player in NFL history to return a kickoff for a touchdown. At 255 listed, if you did not see that for the Houston Texans against Jacksonville. He's probably bigger than that, and he's faster than that.
Is that weigh-in weight or cut weight?
Exactly. There was an IV after that, I'm sure. But, it was one of those, like, the blocks got set up and the ball was kind of rolling around like a squib. And he picked it up and he outran that entire team. And he was the heaviest player in NFL history at 6'5", 255 to return a kickoff for a touchdown. Not only that, it was 85 yards.
Wow.
Pretty good.
Folks, where else are you going to get that little tidbit of information? The heaviest player to return a kick for a touchdown. You're not going to find it anywhere else but right here on Reckless Speculation. Good work, Raj. My game ball, which I'm shocked that this wasn't mentioned. Devin Achane, I believe that's how you pronounce him.
Yes, I drafted him and let him go early because I panicked like a dumb shit.
Rookie from Texas A&M?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
18 for 203. Unbelievable. Just no one saw that coming. Clearly, I think he had 5 yards the week prior. The game plan in general in Miami was spot on. And this will lead into my fumble. This might be a fumble of a generation. And this is the Denver Broncos front office. For the simple fact, they neglected to interview a Colorado kid whose first job was a ball boy at Mile High and who his dream in life was to become head coach or play for the Denver Broncos. He didn't even get an interview. He reached out to the Broncos. Didn't work. Didn't get an interview. They end up hiring Nathaniel Hackett. And let's just say we know how that ended. And now Sean Payton, who just experienced the worst loss in the NFL since 1966, 57 years ago. So don't think for a minute that that was not on the mind of Mike McDaniels when he decided to just keep pounding and pounding and pounding the rock to a tune of 350 yards. 10 total touchdowns. So I think there was a little bit of in the middle of that for the fact that they overlooked him. And let's not
and same tree as Hackett.
let's
They
not
had 49
sugarcoat it.
points at the end of the
Mike
third.
McDaniel was a proven offensive coordinator. He was offensive coordinator for the 49ers, who that number one offense that previous year. And the fact that he didn't even get a sniff was just shows you how inept that this organization is. So they're definitely getting the fumble for me. Might be the fumble of a lifetime, but
Hey, and they
1B would be the Russell Wilson trade.
yeah.
And they pulled their starters. It was 49 to whatever.
That was the
They pulled
fourth quarter.
Their second string outscored the Broncos starting team 21 to nothing.
Yep.
In that game. And they decided to not kick the field goal and not go for the all-time
to tie the record
scoring record. No, they would have beat it. It was 72. They would have had
72. They would have beat.
They would have beat the record.
So to recap, the 1940 Chicago Bears 73 points that came in an NFL championship game. The 66 Redskins had 72, and then the 1950 Rams, and then the Dolphins of last week both with 70. So just impressive, and hey, respect to Mike McDaniels for not twisting that knife in the jugular.
Hey, imagine if
the Denver Broncos
just played like 15 more minutes.
They could have put up 90. Unbelievable. So we're going to move on to the Reckless Speculation Power Rankings. Again, this is not what you would see on ESPN or Fox or any of the talking heads. This is who we think is the top 5 by eye test and who we think is in the top 5. So Raj Mehta, who do you got for your RS power ranking this week?
I mean, I think number one's clear for right now. It's the Miami Dolphins. I don't know how you say anyone else. Number 2 for me is the 49ers. Number 3, I'm going to be a bit of a hypocrite and pull a Rob and go with Kansas City just because right now I think even though Philly is 3-0, I think they're a better team than Philly right now, and Philly would be my number 4. As for number 5, I'm going to go with Buffalo just because of how they've looked the last few weeks, and that's dominant. Now they played the Commanders, who have played pretty well, 37-3, and the Raiders, 38-10, but they have looked like the Bills that we thought they were. After that, Dallas, Detroit, but yeah, those are my top 5.
And you hitting on Buffalo real quick. Josh Allen did something that they've been begging him to do this past week. He slid.
He
So
made me 3-0 after sliding and not getting a concussion.
I think if he does that a little bit more regularly, he's going to be a little bit better as the season progresses. But nonetheless, Brandon, who's your top 5 here?
He's a cowboy.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty chalk with Raj here. I mean Miami 49ers.
That's racist.
I've got maybe the Eagles slightly ahead of KC. So I'd probably swap those. I go Miami 49ers, Eagles, KC, Bills. But I mean those KC's probably going to end up winning out there.
I'm here.
But as of right now, from what I've seen, that's it.
Yeah, I like the 49ers here at number 1, and it bodes down to they've got a more dominating defense. I think Miami's got a good defense. They've got a good defensive front. And if Ramsey comes back at some point, I think that'll make them even better in Miami. But for now, I like the 49ers. But number 2, Miami. I mean, it's close. It's close. And again, I think it comes down to defense. And I'm going to go with the Eagles at number 3. And here's why. DeAndre Swift has just been outstanding his last 2 games. Did he really want to be in Detroit the past couple of years? I'm starting to think no. perfect match. He goes home, born and raised in Philly, went to high school in Philly. So it's a good fit. He's looked great the past 2 weeks. Can he stay consistently healthy? He did not have that situation here in Detroit. So that remains to be seen. But right now, the running game, I think, keeps them at number 3 because Jalen Hurts has not looked all that impressive. But number 4, I think it is Kansas City because they've got Kelsey. He's got a security blanket back. And I think that's important. And they got Chris Jones back. So defensively, they're a little bit more sound. So they're going to get themselves right back in the mix as the season progresses. And number 5, as much as I really don't want to say this, but I do have to give the Cowboys the respect because of their ability on defense. Again, it's no secret my stance on Micah Parsons. He's the best player in the world. And when you have him on your team, I think that just automatically makes you better than the majority of your opponents. Can Dak lead the way? We shall see. So, but right now, sitting at 2-1, I give them that respect for number 5. Just their body of work the 2 weeks previous to this past a bump in the road. So they'll go number 5. So we are going to move on to, I think it's everyone's favorite part of the show.
It's time for Bet Your Nuts.
That's right, folks. It's super Bet Your Nuts time. We're going bonus nuts. We pick a few games. Some have been a little bit better than others. I'd like to do a tally for the next week's show just to see where we sit. Last week we weren't sitting too good. But we're going to start with tonight's game, ladies and gentlemen, from the not-so-frozen tundra Lambeau Field. The Motor City Kitties, the Grit Detroit Lions going up against Green Bay. Detroit a 2-point favorite here in this game. Green Bay comes back from 18, scores 18 points in the fourth quarter, down 17-0, get the win against New Orleans this past week. So, Brandon Chain, who do you like in this one on Thursday night football here? Should be kicking off in about, hour, maybe a little bit longer than an hour.
So typically in the NFL, home field advantage gets 3 points, right? So Packers are 5-point dogs, in my opinion, based on that logic. I like the Lions here. Jordan Love is doing good things in Lambeau. Now he's maybe the Packers have the old school system where the quarterback sits for 2 years, 3 years and comes out. And he's been great. But I like the Lions spot right here. I like their defense. I think Goff has been great, and I think they pull this out probably by a touchdown. So I'm going to take the Lions here.
Raj, who do you like in tonight's big Thursday night football game?
Yeah, man, I just, it's so weird to see the Packers as 1.5, 2, 3-point underdogs, but at home. But I absolutely agree because you're playing Green Bay in September. You're not playing them in December. Also, the Lions aren't afraid. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. The Lions aren't afraid of Lambeau. I believe they've won 3 in a row there. They've done very well historically. And, I think right now it's supposed to be in the 80s in Green Bay. And you don't want a team with that kind of speed playing at your house in 80 degrees.
Yeah.
All Detroit.
And I agree. I think Detroit gets the win here. David Montgomery, all indications are he's going to be ready to go. That will be a big boost to the offense. He gives a little bit more of a ground and pound than Jahmyr Gibbs. I feel like Jahmyr Gibbs is more of a get the ball out of the backfield, throw the ball kind of thing. That's a better utilization of him. So if Montgomery comes back, that is definitely going to be a huge thing. Sam Laporta, he put his name on the map. He's proven he belongs in this league.
Hell yeah.
He's taken some big hits and withstood it. But I think it comes down to the big boys up front and getting to Jordan Love and having Aleem McNeil, which if you don't know who he is yet, number 54, this guy could be playing pro baseball right now. He was that good. He's really good at football. And I think the world's going to see how good he is tomorrow. And this game's going to be won down low with a lot of pressure on Love. And Aaron Jones is coming back, but Detroit in the first 3 games, I think they're only averaging 40 yards given up per game. So I think this is a game where they take control of the line of scrimmage and ultimately come out on top. So give me the Lions. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm eating the cornbread, getting ready here. After this show, I'm going to be in the speakeasy getting ready. So moving on to the battle of the former Browns team and the current Browns team, the Fighting Art Models of Baltimore going into Cleveland. Cleveland's the favorite here. I'm kind of surprised. Clearly Baltimore didn't look good. We talked about it earlier. So we'll see if old Rub and Tug get enough done offensively to get the win. Raj, who do you like in this one?
Whatever you think's going to follow suit, you do the opposite. And Lamar Jackson is 24-12 on the road in the NFL. When it comes down to this game, you go with coaching and you go with the quarterback. And in both cases, that's Baltimore. I will take the Ravens.
Brandon.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a fluke, a little underestimation of the Colts last week with Baltimore. I mean, I've got, to Raj's point, you got to go with a better quarterback. And, although Anthony Richardson is supposed to play this week, I still got to take the Ravens. I mean, the Colts are still somewhat up in the air. So, give me the Ravens.
Yeah, I like Baltimore here too. And its simple fact is Lamar Jackson owns the Browns. A couple seasons ago, the Browns had an opportunity to clinch a playoff berth. You had Lamar Jackson, who allegedly had to go in for a poop break. He comes charging out of the locker room and drives them late in the fourth to a victory. I don't think Baltimore trips up here. I love the Brownies, but sorry, Dad. Baltimore might be a little bit better coaching staff. John Harbaugh. I think he'll get the Ravens ready to go. So give me the Models, the Fighting Art Models, to go into Cleveland and do what they regularly do often is beat the Browns. The game of the week, ladies and gentlemen. The aforementioned Miami Dolphins and their unbelievable offense go up to Buffalo, and a lot like the Lions going to Green Bay, you want to play Buffalo in October in a sense. So weather will not be a factor. Weather was a factor last year when the snow decided to just come out and down in droves in the fourth quarter. So this game should be pretty much evenly matched. Brandon, who do you like in this one?
Give me Tua and the Dolphins. I mean, they haven't been slowed down yet. I don't see them slowing down, and outside of injury with Tua. The Bills they're starting to get things together a little bit, but I mean, they're going to run into a buzzsaw. They can't compete with the speed defensively on their side, offensively on the Dolphins side. So give me Dolphins. I think they win this by at least a touchdown, maybe more.
Okay. Raj, who do you like in this one?
Law of averages. I think a very well coached Buffalo team watches that film. Miami comes back down to earth, and the Bills have won 38-10 and 37-3 the last 2 weeks. Granted, not against a team like the Dolphins, but the NFL, whatever you think's going to happen, pick the opposite.
Yeah, I think this game comes down to home field advantage. It's the Bills Mafia is crazy. They're going to get rowdy, and I think that offense in Buffalo has kind of figured it out. Just don't be fancy. You have weapons. You have a lot of weapons, and you have a good running game. And you've got a quarterback that, if he plays smart, he's probably top 5 in the NFL. So I like this game specifically because it's in Orchard Park. So give me Buffalo here. I think this is a shootout. And it could come down to, I mean, it's a cliche as all get up, but who's got the ball in the last possession, or who makes the least amount of mistakes. If Josh Allen can be right between the ears and not make so many mistakes, I like Buffalo in this game. Your neck of the woods, Brandon, the Bengals, who squeaked out a win Monday night, coming down to Nashville, Tennessee to face the Titans. Who do you got in this one, Brandon?
I got Joe Shiesty and the Bengals all day. Titans are garbage. I'm not even going to the game. Selling my tickets.
It started as a pick'em, though, and right now it's around a 1.5. Jamar Chase said he didn't want Burrow to play last week pregame. Why is it only 1.5 then? Because I agree, it's almost like a neutral field at this point. But right, we got it as a pick'em when the line came out, and that's what we go by.
Have you seen the Titans' offense?
I mean, why does Vegas say so then?
Because they're begging you to take the Titans.
Are they? I thought they're begging you to take the Bengals, so I'm going to go with the Titans. I have no fucking idea why.
Yeah,
I don't see the Bengals going 1-3, but then again, like, that's only a 2-game deficit from 500. I think Vegas is up to something, and it's a team that can run the ball and a team that doesn't stop the run well. So I will take. It's a pick 'em, right? Well, we have it a pick. Fuck it, I'll take the Titans.
I'm going to take the Titans too. I think Vrabel gets these guys ready to go after an embarrassing loss after an embarrassing loss to another Ohio team. I think he gets it right. This is a home game. I don't think King Henry rushes for 22 yards again. I don't think that happens. And really, I'm concerned with Joe Burrow. He looked very uncomfortable the other day. Aside of his calf, it seemed like he was like adjusting his flak jacket there. Like maybe he's got some ribs issue, but he didn't look comfortable. And I'm not sure if he's 100%. And playing a road game in the NFL, that's tough. Winning in the NFL is tough. So two embarrassments in a row for Tennessee.
Injury. You can't do that.
Yeah. So give me Tennessee here against everything Brandon's probably putting in the atmosphere.
Against
but
all logic, we agree.
Here's the absolute toilet bowl game of maybe the season. And let's sum it up real quick. The Denver Broncos just lost by 50 points last week. They're going into Chicago as the favorite. Unbelievable. Raj, I wouldn't normally put this on the list, but it is so shitty. We had to pick it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, Justin Jackson. What's his
Fields.
Fields.
No. The Denver Justin Simmons, the Denver safety didn't play last game, and he is their defense. I'm not sure of his status. This is the number 1 and number 3 worst defenses in the NFL. Then again, when you give up 726 yards, you're going to be the worst defense in the NFL. All being said, I think Denver wins by a field goal. For God's sakes, somehow give me the Bears, which I haven't said since 1985.
Brandon Chain, who do you like in this torture chamber of the game, we'll say?
Give me the Bears, baby. Give me the Bears.
Oh, it's a clean sweep. I'm taking the Bears too. No lucky number 13. The Bears have lost 12 in a row. I think Fields runs a lot, and they're more successful if he does, because clearly he's not getting it done with his arm. Not always his fault. Maybe DJ Moore gets a little bit more action in this game, little deke and dunk passes that can help him. This game's in Chicago. Ironically enough, the cheapest seat, according to Game Time, for this game, 2 0-3 teams. It's almost $300 to sit way up in the 600 level at Soldier Field. Just unbelievable. Who would pay more than $3 to see these two football teams play?
Loyal, deep fan followings, and after Seiya Suzuki's F up for the Cubs, blowing it probably their playoffs, all there is left.
2 Titans tickets to the Bengals Titans for sale right now. $250, 3 rows up from the south end zone. Let's go.
Yeah, but nobody cares.
Oh, man, I tell you. The NFL is king, ladies and gentlemen. We've said it time and time again. And we're going to the bowl, we'll call it. Who are the Raiders? Not sure. Who the hell are the Chargers? We don't know. We're going to find out Sunday. Chargers, 5.5-point favorite in this game. Raj, you said it best. I mean, Josh McDaniels is a coordinator at best. Bonehead decision last week. How healthy is Jimmy Garoppolo as he was folded backwards like a pretzel in the, I believe it was the third quarter in that game. So I'm a little leery about that. Brandon, or Raj, we'll start with you. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, concussion protocol is not good. I thought it'd be like body protocol, but Garoppolo is having to do a lot, and Jacobs has not been the same guy as we all could have projected.
Mm-hmm.
This is an ugly ass game, but these two teams split. I think they've split the last 4 or 5 years, and I believe only one game. I think the Chargers won 28-14 in 2021, but for the most part, it's been a 5-point game or less, which is when I see it at 5.5. I think the Chargers will win the game because the Raiders suck, you know what? But I think it'll be a 3 to 5 point game. So I will take the Raiders, but don't get it twisted, God, and anyone else. When it comes to karma, the Raiders will lose, but I'll take the Raiders at 5.5.
Brandon, who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I like your point, Raj, with the hook there on the 0.5, but Austin Eckler's supposed to be back this game. I think he brings, quite a bit more dynamic to the offense. Anything can be better than what they've seen. Mike Williams tore his ACL, so he's out. Josh Palmer is another kid who's probably going to get most of those receptions. You might see a little bit of Quentin Johnson, but probably not as much as one USC fan would like. But Josh Palmer, he proved to be pretty reliable last year, late in the season. So I like this Chargers position against the Raiders right now. I think they can win the game. It is probably, Raj is probably going to be right. It's probably going to be, the hook. That 0.5 is probably going to get me, but I'm going to take the Chargers on this one.
Yeah. Normally you would say home field advantage is going to matter, but it's not in this game because there's going to be more
Oh,
black.
good.
There's going to be more black than powder blue and yellow. Let's face it. The Raiders,
it'll
they
be
travel,
80%.
and the Raiders are heavy represented still in the state of California.
We
But this
know in
game
LA.
comes down to quarterback play, if you ask me. I think Justin Herbert this is his year. They're not 1-2 because of him. I think he comes out and plays really well. Yes, Josh Palmer, he's got lots of experience because Mike Williams has never played a full season. He's got so much talent, and you feel bad for the guy. He just can't stay healthy, or otherwise he would be a top maybe 5 receiver in the NFL. But that is a shame. But you're right, Raj. Josh Jacobs has not played well. When you miss the entire camp, it's going to take a while to get you in the game shape, no matter how much lifting you did in the off season and how much training you did. It doesn't replace actual game action and hitting pads and whatnot. So I think the Chargers win this game by a touchdown. Again, it comes back to quarterback play. I trust Justin Herbert over Jimmy G because I don't think Jimmy G's healthy. The way he was folded backwards might come back into play in this game. But it's going to be interesting to see SoFi, a lot like it did with the Rams and 49ers, where there was about 80% red. It's going to be about 80% black and for the Raiders. So, but we'll see. Another fun week in store that kicks off here within the hour with the Lions and Packers. Can't wait for that one. So moving on to our final segment of the show, final words. Brandon Chain, final words for the NFL Kickoff show. What do you got?
Oh, man. I'm excited to watch this Dolphins-Bills game. It's going to be great. Over-under is 53, I believe. Now, as Raj said, maybe the Dolphins come back down from cloud 9, but if Tua is healthy, he throws the best ball in the NFL. They've got the fastest team in the NFL collectively, and I think this over is gonna soar. So I'm over the 53.5, but looking forward to NFL and college.
Raj, final words.
I'm changing sports, and I'm going with 2 favorites that Vegas says are favorites. I don't think the teams are going to win it all, but just remarkable players. Number 1, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Milwaukee Bucks getting Dame time. Damian Lillard, which was shocking to me. Miami, Philly, all of these other teams is great. The question is he that big of a difference maker than Drew Holiday?
That they gave up a lot. Drew Holiday was kind of the heart and soul.
Ironically enough, Phoenix, a competitor, got depth somehow. And Dame Time has played 87 games in the last 2 years. So we will see. Theoretically, he's one of the best shooters. He'll stretch that defense so much. And then you got 2 guys in Middleton and the Greek Freak that, if they stay healthy, they'll win it all. But I don't see it. Just like the Atlanta Braves. And I'm going to Ronald Acuna. As a Dodgers fan, as soon as Vegas said Mookie Betts was the MVP favorite, Acuna said, no.
To quote Lee Corso, not so fast.
Not so fast, my friend. Now, Betts did foul a ball off his foot, and they thought he broke it, and he had x-rays, and he plays shortstop, second, third this year, and right field, all very well. But Ronald Acuna became the first member of the 40-70 club. What? Like, that doesn't compute. It's him, and the irony being is when they won the World Series, he wasn't on that team. He was on the IR. They won 88 games, I think, and they won the World Series. But Ronald Acuna, MVP, Dame Time, and the Bucks, both are Vegas's favorites, but both I think it's just so hard to follow suit, and I just see unfortunately, things not going the way for either team.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It seemed like everybody was banking on Mookie being the MVP. And after that, Acuna let his production do speaking for him. So you can't not give him the award.
As a Dodger fan, my hat's off to him, man.
He's unbelievable. But Mookie Betts is still one of the greats in the game, just a great human being and baseball player. But I think for me, my final words are I keep going back to it. Brad Holmes, if he's not the best GM in football, I don't know who is. And like I said earlier, I know I toot the horn of the Lions, the grit and all that, but I can't help but not, because when you have 4 players that were drafted early on that, let's face it, they didn't get the credit they deserved as far as a draft class, and coming in early and making an impact, that just says a lot about your ability to scout and see talent and evaluate. And here's the other guy that they drafted in the 5th round who had to play, and not only had to play, he had to play in a position that he's not accustomed to. I'm talking about Colby Sorsdahl, offensive lineman, 5th round draft pick from William and Mary. This guy is not a right tackle. They put him at right tackle because the first 2 teams of the Lions right tackles out, both injured. So they put him in a position he's not accustomed to, and he handled his business. For a guy, late round pick, another example of unbelievable talent evaluation, put into a position, and he was very productive. So I tip my cap to Brad Holmes and the organization. And if anybody's familiar with the Lions organization, what we're seeing is a transformation, and it's fun to watch. And frankly, it's fun to hear you guys talk so highly about of what you feel of the team, because I mean, we see it here, but it's also really cool to see what other fan bases feel about the Lions. So I love Brad Holmes. I love Dan Campbell. I love where this team's going, and I can't wait to watch him play tonight. So with that being said, we're going to –
quick, Tom, quick. I'm sorry. You said Isaiah Buggs earlier, a guy that play inside and outside. The Lions, to me, like you said with Sorsdahl, they're like a baseball team, like the Dodgers and Braves. Their versatility.
Mm-hmm.
They draft guys that can play all over. They've learned their lesson, and that's what smart teams do. Jahmyr Gibbs, they draft running backs that can run and catch, receivers that can catch and block like St. Brown. Just a very, very branch, a guy that can cover and tackle.
Yeah.
They are a smart, versatile team. And with that, folks, I'll let Tom end it, but be versatile in life.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love the excitement from everybody else. And again, remind everybody, go please go like and follow and subscribe. It really does a lot of help for us and gets our reach out. And as you can see, these guys know their stuff. Unfortunately, we didn't have Robbie Davis because he's somewhere on a beach. I believe there's a country song written about
in
that.
America's Wang in Florida.
And you know dang well that he's all hopped up on Jack. You know that's a fact. But great show. Again, go back and watch our college football kickoff show. It's available everywhere. Here on Facebook, YouTube, and all the podcast platforms. But for Mr. Brandon Chain, Raj Mehta, I am Tom Sloan. We'll see you guys next week. Go Lions. Get your Amazon Prime ready, because forward down the field, baby. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Reckless Speculation. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, searching Reckless Speculation. Catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We look forward to catching you right here next week with another exciting episode of Reckless Speculation. Cheers.